Hey, if you've heard of smart cities, but you're not sure exactly what they are or how to approach that market opportunity, then you'll want to listen to this episode of IoT Playbook. Now, my guest, Taylor Clark, has completed more smart city projects than anyone I know. And in this episode, Taylor is going to reveal the secrets behind a successful smart city project. Now, here's what we cover in the episode: how to leverage your technical background to win IoT projects, how Taylor managed the first built from scratch smart city, the key problems that smart cities solve, and how solving those problems will help win IoT business in any market, and the business model that will get your smart city projects approved and funded without years of committee meetings, and the key decision makers in a smart city project and why you never want to agree to a proof of concept project, and the key financial partners you need in every big IoT project, and why Taylor picked Azure as a strategic IoT platform. So just head on over to podcast.iotplaybook.com and search for episode 8, where I'll show you the actual playbooks IoT managed service providers are using to make 6, 7, and 8 figures or more of recurring revenue right now. Well, hey, this is Mark Smith from IoT Playbook, and I'm super excited for this particular episode. I've been looking forward to this for a long time. I got with me Taylor Clark and Jack Nocky, who introduced me to Taylor. And Taylor, why don't you go ahead and introduce yourself?
I'm Taylor Clark, CEO and owner of Alternergy. We are a smart city, smart development, and green, clean energy company that retrofits for commercial properties and municipalities.
Okay. And Jack, tell me a little bit about you and your company.
Yeah, so I'm the VAR advisor, and what I do is I help IT channel partners and the vendors in the IoT space create channel partnerships and find ways to build revenue streams.
Okay, great. So those 3 things. So we mentioned smart cities and some other things here. So let's talk about smart cities, because quite frankly, Taylor, I've seen a lot of presentations and they've been rather academic. So if you could define sort of the category of smart cities and then kind of talk to tell the audience how you actually got into that.
So originally I'd moved from telecom into LED lighting back in 2009, 2010. LED lighting at that point was brand new. Nobody really knew anything about it. And we had the lion's share of the game by being able to go out and work directly with a lot of the Chinese factories that created lights that nobody else here had. So we took a holistic approach when we went to the buildings and were able to swap out every single type of light, where the best competitors we had could offer, one particular type of light that was just coming out or another. So as we had great success reducing everybody's power bill, lighting became just one commodity or utility they wanted to reduce. They started asking us to look in other areas. So in 2012, we formed Alternergy, and Alternergy was tasked to do anything that we could possibly do to reduce the overall energy, water spend, any type of utility spend that was out there, and do it on a basis where all of the solutions paid for themselves. So as we started moving into that vertical, we got into solar power and battery banks and some basic transitions, like going to low flow toilets, automated water faucets, playing with different types of air conditioning units, etc. After a while, the lighting control systems started to become a little bit more advanced. We started getting into them being able to tie into building management systems, which would then tie into a lot of the solutions that we were offering when it came to, again, air conditioning, heating, cooling, security, etc. So we went out and contracted with several of the higher end lighting programs that were out there and control systems, et cetera. They could do roughly 75 to 80% of the solution for the client, but they could never do everything. So we kept an arsenal of, okay, well, if you want to do this, we have to use this particular program, and then we have to bring in an alternate program to fill the patchwork because somebody may need some type of Bluetooth connection going across, et cetera. So as we started to get more and more into building management systems and lighting control systems and IoT platform, started to become popular. And so we started looking into the IoT platform world to pull all of this together. And at the same time, there was a woman that found our company, and she is currently working on developing a ground-up 1,000-acre smart city south of Atlanta. So she tapped our company to come in and really do as much as we could to try and make this an off-grid city. So we took the next 2 years, roughly, really going around the country and the world to different smart city events, talking to different vendors, meeting a lot of solution architects, really understanding what made a city smart, what type of operational manifestos were out there that we could follow, as well as the technologies that have been proven but were not really advertised because they were more bleeding edge. And with that development and really that build out that we had to do for the city, that's where we became an all-inclusive smart city provider. We were kind of forced to create it from the ground up and catch every nook and cranny. So Alternergy was able to source, find the partners, find the technology, research the solutions. We partnered with a lot of different areas, including Georgia Tech. And that's really where we got our municipality and city entrance. And then we backed that into our commercial experience to take the smaller IoT platform, smart building launch. And now we're kind of doing that in the myriad of working with the municipalities.
Okay. So let's take a case, right? So a city approaches you, and at some point you're doing an assessment. What are the types of things that you can almost guarantee are going to pop up that can get them the best ROI?
So there's a lot of things you can throw out there. Lighting is always going to be one of the easiest ones to go around, and lighting is the most prevalent utility you have. And you've got power. You're able to start any type of Wi-Fi connecting points and may use it as a backbone of the network. So ideally, if you're talking to a city that wants to really become a smart city, and they're not looking to just pilot something to showcase, typically the lighting system is what we would go after first. We would look at converting everything over to LED light poles, to smart LED light poles. They can contain anything from water and air sensors to traffic management, civilian route management. They can read and scan license plates or RFIDs. They can become Wi-Fi hotspots. You can charge your cars there if you want through EV charging, and then you can also turn them into emergency SOS areas, so somebody could go in and actually tie directly into the police or make a call. You connect all of that into one pole. You reduce the power consumption by 40 to 90%, depending on what you're doing, and that pays for it. So what you've done is you've essentially started to create the neural network brain, and also do it in the fashion where you have the most payback ROI, again, through energy savings going into LEDs.
Okay. So that's and then so let's take a city, I don't know, pick a city, and then how do you tackle that? Is it like an all-at-once deal, or they do it in chunks? Or because you got to, and what kind of line do they got to run to that particular? Are they hardwiring in that particular light, each one of those things, or are they setting up a 5G network, or how do they getting the internet connectivity?
So it varies and it depends. Nothing is always going to be the same. That's the problem with this industry, is that standards can exist. Budgets are extremely malleable. Desires between the cities and what they want to push change. So you can come in and say, this is the roadmap. This is how you step 1, step 2, step 3. But it's never going to happen in that fashion. What you have to do is really go in and find out, where is your budget? What are you guys currently allotting money for and are trying to spend it? And that's what you have to really grab first. Because if you're going into any municipality saying that you're going to do a new venture that they haven't already gone through and gotten approval, you're looking at several years down the road. So if you get the choice of saying what to do, it's going into lighting, and we would go in and we would retrofit the existing fixture heads. We would put in solar panel lighting as much as possible. We have wind technology. It is a cube. 1 square cube basically will generate up to 1,000 watts at 17 miles an hour full of wind. We can tie these into the grid. We can tie them into a lot of street light devices and other things we've done on the streets. So those are different types of technologies where we can add in lighting without adding to the grid. along with it and keep it off. So we would do a connection of all of that. As far as getting internet connectivity between it, it depends on length and distance and what are you trying to do. So we can do a 5G point-to-point. This is the same type of technology that AT&T will use for the last mile when they don't want to dig under a highway or concrete or just put that long barrier there. So you can get up to 10 gigs point-to-point on this network going across, and all it needs is line of sight. Or we could just basically put a whole bunch of wireless access points and they're bouncing and repeating off. Again, depends on what type of network are you feeding. Are you going to get it to the citizens or employees or anybody that's walking around? Or is this a private network that's used just to maintain and monitor the lights themselves and control? In which case you could go to something called, a LoRaWAN or a Bluetooth Low Energy, depending again on the distance of the poles. So there's a lot of options. It kind of depends on topography, budget, and what's out there.
So, I mean, you're hooking a lot of stuff to these lighting systems, and so now they've got all that infrastructure out there. So, what are the kind? I mean, obviously, they want to light up the lights themselves, right? That goes first. But after that, is there a sequence of things that you tend to light up? Because they got cameras, they got this, they got that.
Yeah. So it again depends on what they're looking for. Security cameras are becoming very popular. We have a great facial recognition program and event recognition program that we would like to implement in more locations. But right now, certain areas, there's just that issue of, is facial recognition going to be used properly? If you get to the point where you can use that, then there are areas where we've got them in certain public tunnels where it's actually doing crowd management, et cetera. But lighting up security cameras, lighting up what you need to do for the Wi-Fi connectivity. Sometimes there's advertising screens and LED boards that go on there. Those in turn can generate advertising revenue, or you can do them to help promote certain things with citizen engagement, et cetera. So there's a lot of different things that you light up. The power cost is always brought in depending on what we're looking at. Usually this is all going to be off-grid meters, so you just have to do a variable. But it, again, just depends on what are they trying to get to. So you can do the whole, $35,000 per pole with everything on it, or we can do something where it's $6,000 and it's only got a few of those things on there.
Okay. So has there been instances where where they said, hey, we got this thing budgeted, we want to do this first, and you've had to come in and say, yeah, you could do that first, but if you did it in this sequence, you'll end up with a better product down the road?
Yes. And you still typically aren't going to find that you're going to be able to move a mountain that way. We've tried. What we've learned is that the beauty of an IoT platform is it can be modular and it can take over the entire system. So what we do is we come in, and no matter what you're looking at, if it's working on elevator shafts or building management system or power layout, et cetera, everything that you're going to use connects back to an IoT platform with devices that manage it on site, that you control and report on. So if you can put the right type of platform in, and that platform is serving a specific purpose they need at the moment, then you build off of that platform and you ingrain yourself in with the client. So trying to say, we'd love to say, hey, this is what you should do, and we'll definitely pitch it, but 99% of the time, it's not that process. So we say, we're going to get in there, we're going to do what you want, we're going to show savings, we're going to improve value and performance, and then with the savings, we're going to show you how we can then move to this next scenario, which we suggest would be, say, lighting in the streets, or they may have something else budgeted. We end up spending a year doing public parks just because that's where a lot of the money was at in a particular county, and that's where they had to get it spent because it was SPLOST dollars, and it was going to be lost if they didn't use it. Mm-hmm. So you can't fight that, and you kind of have to just jump in. But once you show them that you have this technology that's managing what they're looking for and can take over everything as it grows, then they start to utilize that, get ingrained in it. The beauty of the IoT platform is no matter what you're using in the background, their dashboard stays the same. So for anybody that's using it, as they get accustomed to it, they don't have to say, well, we're swapping something else out over here. Well, that's just getting added to their existing dashboard. That's not, we're bringing in a different system and another different type of dashboard they have to integrate. So it's, slowly building inside of them and getting them hooked onto that one thing and then growing it depending on either their budget or if they will take your guidance.
Now, when you say dashboard, is this like a custom dashboard that you're creating, or are you using different platforms? Or
Every dashboard is specifically customized for that client. We can't, as there is no standard offering, I can go out and say this is going to work with everybody. They're going to take it. This is their priority. This is their budget. It just doesn't exist. So the only thing that really stays the same is somewhat of the feel with the different information that may be displayed on there. But if we're working on a park or we go in and we're doing something with monitoring water or we're getting into a building management system, every single one of those requires different metrics and different things that they're going to be staring at. So it is customized specific to every single client. I believe 5-10 years from now, as standards start to go and people start to put real money in it, there will be out of the box programs that run it. But we do have a building management system platform that is already in there. And then we just start adding in different functions, features, and hardware as we grow with the client.
So did you develop that building management platform? And if so, like what did you develop that on?
So it's an Azure platform, and it's a combination of some people that we met in India when we were in Spain. So we were really a ThingWorx platform in the very beginning. And we went to Barcelona for an IoT Smart City Innovations conference. And some guys at our booth, they were working on a building management system for some of their guys. We swapped some code, and we've got some guys that are local here in Texas that finished it off. So we have one company that owns that develops a lot of it for what they're doing, and then we add to it. So more of a co-op, but all onto Microsoft Azure.
Okay. And did you pick that platform because of how far down that group that you met in India, or you just picked that platform? You were already looking at that at Azure platform, and these guys were going the same direction?
So we were very happy with ThingWorx. It's a great company. The main push with us with them is that we were really working with a couple clients that wanted a lot of in-depth augmented reality solutions. And they had a great augmented reality platform. They started buying out the creators of it. What started to happen is that our AI functionality was really needed to jump up quickly for some of the clients that we were looking at. And the best way to do that is with Microsoft. They open up the developer platform to everybody. So once you get in, you can actually jump into their system, and all of the learning functionality it has with all other partners becomes common. So you get to grow your AI platform, and it gets to learn a lot faster than if you were just running something on your own and feeding it. So you can exponentially grow from 1 month to 3 years and 6 months time.
I definitely want to get back to the AI side. So back to the, and we're going to get that in a little bit. So on the smart city, who are really some of the key decision makers? Does that literally vary by city to city, or could you say, hey, these are the kind of people that I know that are influencers or decision makers?
It's usually the mayor.
Okay.
And when it comes down to it, what we found is the mayor is in charge of how the city looks, what the upgrades that are happening, how they engage with the citizens, et cetera. And ultimately, it's going to go onto his or her desk.
Mm-hmm. Okay. And so when you come in, as you've said, you kind of jump into an existing, like if it's already budgeted, because there could have already been a year or 2 years worth of work and committees and different things to get to that point, and you don't want to wait around for the next, Yeah,
I mean, it depends on your business model. If that is your business model, just understand that you're getting into that. If you're out there looking to grow your business and you need a client that's going to give you some type of return in an immediate future, then you've got to look for, even in a commercial space, someone that has a budget and ready to go. Everybody's going to tire kick. Everybody wants to know what can be done. So you always need to make sure, is there a budget? If not, you need to understand you're in it for the long haul. If that's your business model and you can take it, then that's fine. But if you get into stuff that we get into, you could drop $150,000 just doing surveys.
Right. So it sounds like when you're talking energy management seems to be the lowest hanging fruit in terms of proving the ROI, right? So you say, hey, here's a smart lighting project. You offset that with energy savings. And then all the other added functionality, it's there. They just essentially paid for it with energy savings. Do you then put an ROI on some of these new things that they haven't, they may not have any experience with.
Yeah, so you can go into a few different areas with that. We try to do everything on an as a service model.
Mm-hmm.
So if I can put it in as a service, then typically what we have to do is prove that we are generating more revenue than debt. That can come in through energy savings, utility savings, and it can even come in through enhanced revenue. So we have certain areas we're working with, like, for example, a shopping center, and they are doing some data collection, some targeted ads. The tenants there are able to opt in and pay a monthly fee, et cetera. So they're actually earning revenue, and we're able to forecast and show that and get them onto an as a service model where it's not a loan, it's not debt on the books, it's just a service plan until the time runs out, and they always stay there. So if you can get into that model, you can kind of create the right type of plan with the client. If you're going in and you're showing savings or profit to pay for it, then yes, we build that out, and we always go to step 2 and 3. If you're talking to the client and you're saying this is what we're doing, and then that's going to be the end of it, they're going to start looking elsewhere at other options. So whenever we go in and we're doing our final proposal for what we're there discussing, we always introduce the next few phases and say, now what we've done is we've built you up to accept this type of technology, or to where you can get to this, and this is going to pay for itself in that manner. So we'll get more of a verbal commitment in the beginning with them that they want to move to those, and they already have that in their heads, and we just keep pushing forward into that area. And once the revenue or the savings have been realized, then it's really just up to you to make sure that you maintain that relationship properly to get it done.
So give me an example of, you gave an example of the ads where they can offset with some revenue or things, and that would be more like the shopping mall, maybe airport or whatnot. What would be a typical, so energy saving, what would be a typical phase 2 and 3, and what would those look like in terms of the ROIs?
So, and again, it just depends on what you're looking at and what their goals are. So you go in and plug the holes versus come in and strong arm them into your idea. A lot of cities may have an issue. We had one, they just needed to get some wireless power meters and water meters out there. And that was new technology, and having a power meter on top of a gas line was another new issue that we had to kind of come across. But that was something they needed. The amount of savings they were going to get by reducing the truck rolls was extremely significant. So we were able to take that budget and then roll that into, they were looking to basically upgrade a new building. So we added a whole bunch of air conditioning units in there. We actually moved a lot of the ventilation around, because as it was built up, it wasn't built properly. So they were using about 40% more power, really cooling only about 65-70% of the building. Some certain rooms did not have a return in them, which meant that the air was just getting trapped. So the savings there led them to a creature comfort, which made them happy, and then pushed us into something else. So it's, again, kind of part of what the client is and where there's at. If we had to design it, we would go in from energy management. We would go into the utilities. That's the backbone of it. Then you have to quickly start looking at citizen engagement. If you're a smart building, you want to do employee engagement, that's obviously something you want to do to try and keep people there and make you competitive in the hiring business. And the smart city enterprise, if you're doing things, you really need to be able to show something for it. You'll notice that there's not really a lot of smart cities out there. There are a lot of smart city pilots, which are just showcases. People are peacock feathers out there to say, look over here what we did. Mm-hmm. But in actuality, it hasn't done much for the city or the municipality. What we want to do is backtrack that and make sure that it's going to fix something, and then it's going to go from there. So I apologize, but the citizen engagement is where we start taking an app-based orientation for the city to communicate with the people as it's going around. So if they see a pothole, they can report it. If they see, say, a police officer doing something nice, they could report that. But you want to do things that bring the community closer to the city. Then you can start sharing what you're doing with them as far as the upgrades. That in turn gets a lot of the public support for increasing what you're doing. So you have to go in and, we believe, show something for the city, but then you have to also give something back to the people there. And that keeps the ball rolling, because you're not just appealing to political figures that are in there, but also the people that are living in that area. And you're making the political figures look better, because when they go back to run for office, see what I've done for you. Do you see how I've listened to you? Do you see what we're doing to try and bring the city in? So you can bring that type of interaction in there, and then you can start providing different tools. We had an area where they wanted to be able to show the cleanest air quality, and so they had a lot of joggers in that area, and they literally would show the route for the least amount of for the cleanest air route the entire way through the city, so that their joggers could use that.
So, okay, so transitioning to, let me ask one more question. So then for Smart City, sounds like these are pretty big projects. What is the best way to sort of get started there as a subcontractor or what?
It depends on the size of the city. I will say that right now, rural cities seem to be getting a lot of funding. And a lot of what started with us was in those areas, and I still believe that's my favorite place to work at. You go into the major cities, there is a lot of politics involved. There are very large companies with big, deep pockets that have family members that know family members that know family members, and you're going to get into more of a rat race. It is the bigger win, and that depends on whether or not you can get in there. If you start talking to more of a recently improved rural area, they're getting, say these improvement zones and a lot of other tax breaks that they didn't have before. So now all of a sudden we found a lot of areas that nobody really been talking to because they didn't have a big budget. Now they do, and they don't know what to do. And they're just looking to spend the money to keep it moving forward. So those types of clients typically are going to be your favorite because they're extremely excited about anything you offer, just the fact that they could get it done. And you can start getting really unique with what you're trying to do versus going in there and beating the guy that talked to him a year ago that gave this particular PowerPoint. And you have to go through and check off every box that, yes, we can do that particular thing. And maybe it's in this particular fashion. And then, by the way, this is what we can do on top of that. So I would go into those types of areas if you're entering into the market. And I would always try and talk to the mayor. And whether or not your company can contract or subcontract is up to you guys, or up to the company and how they're formed. We like to work with a lot of the local vendors to help support it. We're more of an architect solutions company. We have our own guys that come out there and form in the job, but then we bring in a lot of the work and provide it to the local people that are there. That also helps get us the jobs approved.
So Taylor, let me ask you a question. So putting yourself in the position of a channel partner who maybe knows IT or telecom as you did going into it, and they're trying to get into IoT and they want to start a smart city practice. Granted, there's a salesmanship that they need to go in and talk to the right people in the city, but how do you think they should approach the technology side of it? Because these are new technologies when we talk about platform and sensors and LED lights. Do you have a suggestion for how they approach, building a practice around this most effectively out of the chute?
Absolutely. So an IoT platform is really meant for connectivity and holistic connectivity for everything out there. You find where your strong suit is. We had a good run with LED lighting before anybody did, so obviously that background, it lent to us well. So we could go in and people wanted to add a lighting control system in. Whenever they wanted to do a general lighting control system, we would come in and say, well, all right, so you want to now control, you've got your platform that controls your building management. You have a security management platform. Now you want to add in another particular type of lighting control system. Okay, well, let's have fun with this. Do you want it all to be Bluetooth controlled? Can it be on your Wi-Fi? Does it need to be on a private IP network where you're running all your cellular data across it? It kind of starts to blow their mind, and they start to realize that even if they wanted to do one system, it's not going to work their entire way. So you bring in the IoT platform. That's true in most cases, that you can throw enough out there to say, well, to do it right, you have to have this and this and this and this and this and this, and it almost becomes over daunting for them. When you then say, we're going to just give you one platform, it's going to control everything. If we upgrade your lights down the road or whatever program is in the back end, your dashboard stays the same. Your settings stay the same. That allows you to grow. And oh, by the way, what else are you working on in the building? And so I'll give you an example for a hospital. They also wanted to go out and really remove the building management system that they had. And I don't want to say the name of the company, but very, very prominent company. So we would go in and start to remove bits and pieces of that building management system. So we started pulling away the air conditioning controls, moving it into our IoT platform. The cost that they needed to upgrade their existing building management system was about $2.5 million. We were able to build the entire system for them to control lighting and basically either control their existing building management system. So our IoT platform doesn't necessarily have to replace it, but it can talk to it and still give you that singular interface. So there were certain areas that it controlled well. They were able to slowly dumb down their plan and reduce the costs. And then where they needed the additional functionality or something that was not offered by their existing system, we could add into the IoT platform and again, not change the dashboard. So being able to identify that there's a clutter. Somewhere there's a clutter and there's so many different types of signaling technologies. People don't understand that, okay, well, I go out and I get this device that manages everything. It all runs on a closed circuit cable network. Okay, great. Well, I bring in these other one, they all run off of a Bluetooth signaling. Well, you also get somewhere where we can't have Bluetooth in this particular area because it's a hangar and there are airplanes and electronics in there. So you can't be married to a particular type of signaling and you have to be open to it. So once you start explaining that what you're doing now and then what they're going to grow into is going to require all of these different types of hardware and components, et cetera. And the main point is for you to have one central management system. And that system stays congruent no matter what happens in the background. And by the way, we're going to do it as a service model. So you're just going to pay monthly, and every month, everything's updated. If something it breaks, it gets fixed and you don't have to worry about it. That gives them peace of mind. It gives them a total pathway to complete solution down the road. And they know that what they're spending today's money on won't go backwards. And typically, if you're going and you're not using an IoT platform, you're really going to be pigeonholed to what's been programmed inside of that box. And so if you can pitch against the programming in that box, you're going to win with an IoT platform because it is agnostic, it is holistic, and it is 100% future compatible. So if that's what they're looking for, then you don't go get some system that does X, Y, but not Z.
Good. Well, let's talk about the other side that partners are going to be looking at, because obviously, some of them have looked at it and say, well, it's a $2 sensor. I'm not going to be able to make any money on that. And maybe it's a one-time sale of equipment. You've focused yours on an as-a-service monthly recurring model, and just kind of give us a feel for the profitability of this compared to if you're selling a telecom service or even just IT managed services. How does the IoT opportunity compare to that?
So right now, everything in data is going into as a service. Programs, software support, et cetera, is as a service. So the people that you're going to be talking to in the IT industry are familiar with the model and probably have done it. Maybe it was with a copier a while back. But the model that we've rendered with the bank has worked out to be very profitable, adds a lot of money into our side of the business, but it also doesn't increase too much compared to the customer compared to, say, a performance contract. So we went against a very good solar company, and it was for a charter school. They were going to do, I think, something around like 50,000 or 75,000 watts. And we were able to triple what they were doing for half the cost, and we were able to do it in a 10-year payment plan. They had a 24-year payment plan for the solar. They were going to spend, let's just use general numbers, so I can't pull off the top of my head, but let's just say it's about $1 million for theirs. Ours was roughly $400,000. And we gave them almost double the amount of panels with that same number. So you can get a lot more bang for your buck to the client when you use sometimes like a power purchasing agreement. There's a lot of legalities inside there, et cetera. You can get a lot of money, but you're almost you're just taking away from other projects. You're absorbing too much cost into that agreement. So we're not a big PPA provider. We're not a big performance contracting company because those have had a lot of guys that have just abused it. But when you say it's as a service and you say there's no debt because it's not a line item on the books. There's no credit check. They just need to make sure that you're financially solvent. You don't start making payments till it's installed and it works, and it's completely guaranteed. We bring in a third-party guarantor on that, Lloyd's of London, that'll back it. So they feel like, look, there's no risk. I'm not putting any money out of pocket. It's not showing up on my debt. I don't even start paying for it until I approve it and it works. So they see zero risk. They see that there's proven savings in that model. And energy and utility savings is really our main pitch. It's also something everybody's been looking at. It's on the forefront of their mind, so it's an easy way to go into it. Anybody else that has a vertical where they're able to save some money, even if it's telecom, if you're saving them $10,000 a month by reducing their telecom bills, then figure out a way to put that into a smarter platform to control it. An IoT platform can control phone calls, and it can get into receptionists and admin controls and better functionality. So it just kind of depends on what you're looking at. But that's really why the as a service is very successful in our world.
Well, so to sum that up, right, what I hear is from the technology point of view, selling the single pane of glass and painting the really sort of aiming at the multiple panes of glass that they're dealing with now. And I use that word pane as in PAIN, panes of glass, right? You're reducing that single dashboard and giving it to as a service, as a business model. Yeah, brilliant.